welcome to the second episode of the Connect the Dots New York City podcast. I'm your host, Vedant Vohra, and I'm so excited to take you on this journey as we explore different solutions to homelessness. As the creator of the CTD NYC app, I've seen how technology can connect people to vital resources. CTD NYC helps individuals experiencing homelessness in New York City access shelters, food, and healthcare. It's a powerful example of innovation, meeting compassion to tackle the homelessness crisis. Each episode will dive into stories, strategies, and innovations from those on the front lines, whether they're advocates, policymakers, service providers, or individuals with lived experiences. My goal is to spark meaningful conversations and shine a light on the incredible work being done to make housing more accessible for everyone. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get started. Our guest today is Andrew Funk, a visionary leader dedicated to social impact and economic empowerment. As the founder and president of Homeless Entrepreneur, Andrew transforms the lives of individuals experiencing homelessness by providing them with the tools and opportunities to achieve financial independence. His own journey through homelessness fuels his passion for systemic change, and his work bridges the gap between social responsibility and entrepreneurship. Through innovative programs, strategic partnerships, and an unwavering commitment to human dignity, Andrew empowers individuals to reclaim their futures and build sustainable livelihoods. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, I wanted to start with your personal journey and your motivation. So, what inspired you to start Homeless Entrepreneur, and how did your personal experience shape your approach?
Well, basically, I experienced homelessness myself. So after I was able to be empowered out of my situation, I wanted to help others. So I think when people go through a traumatic experience, it can either take them down and under or it can bring them up and above. And if you're conscious of the basically how lucky you were, you tend to give back to others so you can create this chain of positive events to help others.
Thank you. And can you share a defining moment from your journey through homelessness that still influences your work today?
Well, I would say the most definitive part would be my current wife helping me get off the street by giving me a place to stay, which helped me focus on my work, which has turned into what Homeless Entrepreneur is today. So thanks to her, I have a beautiful daughter that's 5, turning 6 soon, and also the opportunity to help many, many people.
Wow, and I commend you for all the challenges you must have overcome. And on that note, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced while transitioning out of homelessness?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is really staying motivated, right? When you're just constantly getting hit by obstacles and the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't seem to be near because you're just going through darkness and just trying to figure out how to keep your head up. So, dealing with mental health to stay positive and realistic at the same time, so that way you can create goals to help you advance and knowing that it's a very long process and also having a little bit of blind faith in your community, knowing that you can only give your best and hopefully your network and your environment corresponds.
And what misconceptions about homelessness do you wish more people understood?
Well, I think most people think that homelessness is just somebody who's schizophrenic or bipolar and has drug problems on the side of the street, right? Maybe in some parts of the states, fentanyl issues, right? But I think people need to understand that mental health and drug abuse represents probably like 33% of the homeless population, which is the loud minority, and the silent majority needs to be taken into consideration. And in our opinion, we think people need to improve their knowledge so that way they can go above and beyond basic assistance, which is necessary, but many times it helps people become comfortably numb. Food, clothing, and coffee, and even social housing, right? So how do we help empower the community? And many times, before you empower someone else, you have to empower yourself. We do that through knowledge, which helps people recognize how they can participate in positive social change.
And how has leading Homeless Entrepreneur changed your perspective or others' perspectives on poverty and social change?
Well, it's a debate that's constantly growing, right? Getting into a conversation, digging deeper, understanding our limits and also our scope, how far we can go. At the beginning, you want to help everyone, right? And then you realize really where you can add the most value. And we do that with the community that's willing and able to work. So people with severe mental health issues or drug problems are out of that scope for the help program, but we can help them with the helpline and the voices program. And, I think it's really understanding your capacity and giving the best to your community, filtering properly so you can actually help people, and learning how to say no. Sorry, we're unable to help you with that, which is difficult, but it's worse than if you say yes and you try to help someone with something you can't do. So I really think it's understanding the obstacles and opportunities and the best way to act, so that way you can really progress as a community.
And on Homeless Entrepreneur and its mission and its impact, what do you believe makes Homeless Entrepreneur different from other organizations addressing homelessness?
I get that question a lot, and it's kind of hard to respond and be humble at the same time. But I would probably say what differentiates us is the fact that inspiration is just a key factor of everything we're doing. We're inspiring people to dream, but also keeping their eyes on reality at the same time. So it's not every day that someone who's experiencing homelessness in a foreign country has an opportunity to meet the president of that country at the World Economic Forum and that person shows interest in their work. It's not every day that people are able to do something tangible related to their dream and really understand their potential. So I would say we have a community that really inspires everyone to go beyond where they think they can actually go. So I don't want to say other organizations don't do that, but I do think we have a certain level of craziness in our community. I'll give you an example. I was sleeping out in 20 below zero at the World Economic Forum to give the homeless community a voice there. When I got there, there were literally zero searches if you put Davos and homelessness. Now that's not the case. So we brought it on the map there literally. And last January, we took it one step further because it was like, okay, sleeping out in the cold gets people's attention for so long, but you have to keep, you have to develop upon it. So I met a guy named Joe Roberts who walked 18 months across Canada to give a voice to the homeless community and raised $1 million Canadian. And I have a lot of respect for him. I was like, how can I do that without becoming homeless again and my wife kicking me out? So we ended up coming up with 150 kilometers in 5 days to represent the 150 million homeless people. We did that from Zurich to Davos. Then we did it from Orleans to Paris for the Olympics last summer. Then we did it again from Zurich to Davos in Switzerland. The last one we did was with one of our ambassadors in Aconcagua, which is the largest mountains in the Americas. He actually had to get air vac because he couldn't make it to the top because of his blood oxygen level. And we're preparing for the European Heat Aid Great Walk campaign this August, which is going to be pretty crazy. It's going to be 844 kilometers, 20 marathons in 20 days, connecting 5 capitals in Europe to give a voice to 1 million people, over 1 million steps for over 1 million homeless people. So that's touching upon Warsaw in Poland, Vienna in Austria, Amsterdam in Holland, Brussels in Belgium, and Madrid in Spain. So we tend to push the bar in many ways and just really try to inspire people and a little bit of chaos and madness. But at the same time, it's beautiful when you give people an opportunity to really dream, and walking and getting out of the city is an amazing way to do that too, because people need to free up their mind for thoughts.
Wow, and that really shows how determined you are to resolving and raising awareness about this issue. And so I thank you and commend you for that. How do you measure the impact and success of your programs, such as these walking expeditions you've mentioned?
Well, to investors, I always say the main KPI is the size of their smile and how long it lasts, which obviously is not a KPI for an investor. But the main objective that we have is uplifting the community so that way their state of homelessness is reduced so they can improve their state of housing and work, and ultimately active citizens paying taxes and able to pay for their own rent. That's the goal. From there, people have different expectations, different capacity. Whenever I see this homeless to billionaire or millionaire stuff, I'll just scratch my head instead of respond to what I think about that. But the reality is you have clickbait and then you have reality. And the reality is it's very difficult to keep steady income for many people. I think in the States you have like 20.5 million people that are at risk of becoming homeless. And it's really difficult. It's very, very difficult. So just trying to understand how you can help people is extremely important.
And what role does mentorship play in helping individuals reintegrate into the workforce?
Well, for the mentor, it tends to be someone in a high position, so senior level position, that wants to contribute but has very little to no time. So it gives them an opportunity to transfer their knowledge in a way that's somewhat seamless in their professional life. So they don't need to be there in the day to day, but they can participate in a way that adds value within their time frame and their limit and expectations. So in that regard, that's the value it adds to the mentor. To the homeless entrepreneur in our program, it's that shining star, you know, and it's that grandfather figure to a certain extent that's never going to judge you and is just going to, let you do your thing to help become yourself, right? So mentorship is something that plays a key role. It's not the same as a consultant or a coach, but it is someone that's there and that wise old man or woman that's able to give you peace and structure and consistency. So it plays a key role. It is just one aspect of getting out of homelessness, but it does play a key role.
And how does Homeless Entrepreneur provide long-term support to ensure that individuals don't fall back into homelessness?
Well, it's all about network support, right? So it's building that community. So, for example, Fabio Betancourt, who overcame cancer, he's ambassador of a project called HomeCanic, which has received mentorship support from Novartis, which is a large pharmaceutical company. And basically, it exists to bridge the homeless community to the medical world because homeless people in Europe are 41 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer and twice as likely to die. So I was explaining Fabio's case because he just reached plus 500 contacts on LinkedIn, which is a relevant milestone for many people in our program because it means they've been able to be consistent long enough to build their network and they keep doing so. So the assets that they build through our community, which they own, helps them become more independent. And that's the ultimate goal. One of the main things once they've graduated from stage one is when they invite you to coffee. And it's not the price, it's the fact that they can and they want to and they do. So the long-term relationship we have with them is also through the helpline that we have. So people reach out to us. We have a helpline. People use to connect with us and Voices program to tell their stories and a help program that helps them become active working citizens. But really building a community in which there's a bi-directional relationship is what creates long-term relationship and success for them. Because if people just call when they need something, the response is something that they're not going to like. But if they actually participate in events, activities, and really form part of the community, they're participating in the process of a healthier, more sustainable lifestyle.
I now want to focus a little bit more about homelessness on a kind of broader and more general scale. And so, what are the most common barriers do you believe that prevent people from escaping homelessness? And how do you think that people should address them?
Well, you have internal and external, right? One is your own mentality. Like you can't blame the entire world for everything. But then you can have external factors that make it much more complicated, right? So when people are born without parents, so they're orphans, they kind of are born in a homeless situation, right? And that's complicated to get over, and even the mentality of wondering where your parents are, kind of thing. So I would say internally, like understanding your own mentality, because many times when people are in that situation, their mentality helps them survive, but it doesn't help them thrive. Then you have externally the price of rent. In New York City, I don't even know how much it is right now, but I'm sure I could find it. But I understand that there are 350,000 people in New York City that are homeless. That's crazy. That's literally like 26, 27% of the homeless population in Europe, in New York City. So pricing has to be one issue. The other is agreements, right? Being able to stay, not having the right family. So not having the conditions to be able to pay for rent and not having a job that pays enough to keep it. Right? Those are the main factors. And then obviously mental health could be another factor, which is more internal, or it could be mental health in your surroundings. If you're in a place where people are cutting their veins and jumping out of windows, it's probably going to affect the way that you focus and you get things done. So I would say the obstacles are internal and external, and the ability and the capacity of the individual to overcome those situations.
And what do you feel currently is the biggest missing piece to combat homelessness?
I would say investing in a model that focuses on empowerment, like what we're doing. Because normally, I think the majority of funding goes to assistance-based support, which is food, clothing, housing. They're talking about basic universal income, which basically, in my personal opinion, and our work of over 10 years, if you pay for nothing, you get nothing. And only it's someone who's obsessed with work that thinks that someone's going to work if they don't have to, right? They can have hobbies, they can do different things, but the people that say if you had income for nothing, then you would create this amazing dream job. I think those people are normally obsessed with their job and they would work even if they weren't getting paid. But in the other situation, when people have been struggling for generations, like you want a break, you need to breathe, So I think there's a little bit of incoherency there.
And focusing specifically on entrepreneurial empowerment and social entrepreneurship, how do you believe entrepreneurship can help people experiencing homelessness regain financial independence?
Well, it's all about the entrepreneurial spirit. There are very few entrepreneurs in society, right? But the spirit of creating something out of nothing and starting up your life is huge. So the spirit is huge, right? Because you can be an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. So I think we promote both activities, but the reality is the entrepreneurial spirit tends to be more common because they have the opportunity to work within companies, and it's very challenging to be an entrepreneur. So because you're in the street doesn't mean you're more or less likely to be an entrepreneur, in my opinion. But let's just say in general, it takes a special individual to be a successful entrepreneur, and a successful entrepreneur can be successful and then can become bankrupt. So you have to think about what success means and stability and all those other terms.
So what advice would you give to someone starting a social enterprise?
How much are you willing to sacrifice? Is it worth it? You know, what's the real reason you're doing it? Are you really helping all the people you say you want to help? I would dig down deep, and because I don't really differentiate between social and non-social business, because every business has a social aspect, right? So if you're exploiting your workers, that's not good, right? So if you're taking care of them, that's good. But if you're paying salaries, you're helping homes and people, et cetera, right? So, um, I think we should step away of social and non-social business. I think we should just have a proper framework in which every business has a social aspect, and then you can have different ratings, if you will, of their impact. But if you talk about social, then you're talking about non-social existing, and I don't think that's the right way to approach it linguistically.
And so, as my last two questions, I'll give you a chance to expand on both homeless entrepreneurs' mission and kind of give a ideal sort of world. And so, how do you see homeless entrepreneur evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
I've always said I'd like to just do like the crazy visionary, president stuff, but I think it's difficult to find a proper CEO in an organization, especially with the expectations and reality of what they need to bring to what we're doing. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be a respected model that will be used by government and corporations to understand how to create better social impact to reduce homelessness through social policy and corporate action. So in 5, 10 years, I would like our model to be included in the design of how homelessness is being ended around the world. That's our goal. I don't know how long it's going to take. We're pushing hard enough to inspire young professionals like yourself to reach out and make a contribution and to invite us to participate in your world. So the fact that a young man from New York who's doing great work to help the homeless population and community reaches out to us and respects what we're doing, I think it says a lot. So from there, also your success with what you're doing and how we can help you grow is key. So we just want to be leaders in the ecosystem in all sense, business, youth, university, government, elderly, youth. We just want to try to find a way to really create a better way of empowering people made a potential out of homelessness.
And as my last question, this is slightly tangential to the answer you already gave, but if you had unlimited resources, what would be the first major yet practical change you'd make in tackling homelessness?
So unlimited resources, it would be continuously tweaking what we do and improving it and just not be complacent because I don't think we're going to end homelessness in my lifetime, but I think we can end homelessness as we know it, right? Which is the conception of people sleeping in the street. Obviously, if people sleep in the street and they choose to because of mental health issues and because of other situations, they've chosen that place as a home to a certain extent, even though obviously I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever choose the street, right? I don't think you're not in a healthy mind frame to make that decision. I think everybody who's willing and able to participate in the process has an opportunity to do so is the first step of ending homelessness. And we need to get there as soon as possible.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your valuable insights. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Vedant, and wish you the best with what you're doing. Love your podcast and hope more people listen to it and looking forward to listening to your future guests too.
Thank you so much.